And joining us today to help us define political dynasties, we have attorney Carlo Africa, Executive Director for Hiraya Initiatives for Change and Progress, one of the groups calling for prohibition of political dynasties. Welcome to Morning Matters.
Yeah, good morning. Thank you for having me today.
Okay, what's the difference between the fourth degree of consanguinity and the fourth civil degree? Pareho lang ba yun?
I think it's the same. So, yung fourth degree natin abot siya sa uncles and aunts. Sorry, it's cousins at fourth degree. At third degree, it's going to be uncles and aunts. At secondary degree, it's going to be our up until grandfathers.
Again, okay, ulitin natin.
First degree, parents and parents natin. Second degree would be our, yung mga lolo-lola natin. Third degree will be uncles and aunts. And fourth degree, yung mga cousins natin.
Okay.
So every time you go up, you have to, that's one degree. Go
okay,
up or
so
go
you're
down.
proposing up to that level.
Yes.
I'm not sure what the bill of Speaker Boji D holds kung
Yes.
hanggang fourth degree nga ba. Pero I do recall from an explainer last night that the proposal of the House was to do it in clusters. So, pagbabawalan. Kung wari sa national level, mga presidente, senador, pero pwede na pag congressman.
Yes.
Kasi ibang level na yan, no? Municipal or provincial. Pero pwede na rin yan pag nasa provincial level, ibang cluster din
Yes.
yan. At iba rin kapag magkakaibang bayan pa kayo.
Yes.
What are your thoughts on that proposal?
So we actually have a sort of a similar draft that we have right now. So you are allowed one national position if you come from a political family and one local position. So whether president, senator, party list, and we're including their House of Representatives, you can have one candidate there. But if meron kayong kamag-anak, anak nyo, for example, wants to run for mayor, you can also have one candidate there, so at the local level. At the local level, if one person runs for governor, yung kamag-anak nyo within the fourth degree will not be able to run for other positions in that locality, within that same province. But if it's another mayorship for another province, at least in our version, we're allowing it. So part of the reason why...
Iba yung provincial, iba pa yung
Yung local. Well, I think we're taking local as a whole, so it's just national and local. At least that's
Dalawa
how
lang.
we're
So
looking at it.
pagka governor na, hindi na pwede tamakbo na mayor.
Yes, yung kamag-anak niya. Yung isang thing na maganda importante makita natin dito, yung role ng House of Representatives. They act in terms of a national impact kasi they craft our laws, but they're elected at local level. So our draft specifically assigns them both as a national and local official. So if you run for House of Representatives, no relative can no longer run for Senate,
Kumbaga parang
for
pwedeng
President.
may pambato. Kung ikaw ay nasa isang political clan, may pambato ka sa national, may pambato ka sa local. Pero
Yes.
itong iisa lamang.
Isa lang dapat.
Oo.
Yes.
Okay. Of course, the argument of Congressman Guerin, alam naman niya na parang medyo marami pa itong pwedeng improve, pero this could be a good start. Knowing that Congress is composed of representatives that belong to political clans. And this might be the pragmatic route. Do you share the same view na yung kanilang proposal pwede na simula pa lang yun muna gawin natin, kumbaga maglinis muna tayo sa horizontal dynasties.
So right now, I mean, the fact that it's being identified by the president as a priority bill is a big thing. I think it's a good starting point. I think yung kailangan pag-isipan natin dito as bilang mga taong bayan, we have to make sure that the bill actually solves the problem. So part of what we're looking at, if it's second degree, that might not be enough. Kasi the way we look at it right now, it's a sphere of influence that allows all of these dynasties to potentially control lack of accountability. So nakita natin may correlation between if mas mataas yung number of dynasties in a certain province, you have less likely for accountability there as well. And you have less accountability, more corruption, you have more poverty. So I think we have to be very careful in looking at the provisions because again, 83% of our House of Representatives, political dynasty. I think mga 60% ng party list rin, political dynasty. So we have to be very careful in how they craft the law. I think yun naman yung role namin. The reason why we also have our own draft is so that we can compare what is a draft created by political dynasties by the House of Representatives. Ano yung draft na meron tayo sa civil society as well. And we're looking at the Senate, again, there are two chambers. So very important. It's a good starting point. The fact that we've had these conversations, the fact that they're already talking about it and they have a 3 to 4 month timeline. To my memory, this is the first time I've heard Congress actually take it
far.
seriously. Yeah, exactly. So it's
But
promising.
what else is in your proposal apart from banning up to the 4th degree of consanguinity?
So we're actually also banning simultaneous and consecutive. So hindi once tumakbo yung isang member of a political family, no member can run again after that. So across the bans that
Siyempre,
we have.
pag natapos
ang term,
yung maximum
yes, exactly.
number of terms.
But I think yung nawawala right now in all of the drafts we've seen so far, whether it's House, Congress, or even different CSOs, is that we put in a mechanism for nominations, for disqualification. Because yung problema dito, we have to look at it from the viewpoint of COMELEC, yung operationalization of this law. We put in a preference. So for example, what if dalawang kamag-anak mag-file ng COC at the same time? What we're saying is that yung number one preference is whether you're part of a political party or not. The second preference, if pareho kayong part of a political party in good standing, the second preference goes into higher possession.
So in effect, you want to strengthen also the political party system.
Exactly.
But are we ready for that? Knowing the nature of our political parties now, hindi ba baka may marginalized din?
I mean, that's true. I think the problem that we have with the parties is that I think 90% of our parties are actually just political families. So this will potentially just allow them to become a stronger,
if you have resources, then you can,
exactly.
Then you can group together, right?
So that's the theory behind. Kasi ang problema rin sa political dynasties, we cannot just look at them as a solution. So banning political dynasties is just the first step. I think the next step and more important step is actually just preparing more capable people to run for elections. Kasi for the past 35 years, it's really been the same people running elections in the country. And yung problema sa atin, we're not preparing any new types of candidates to run for the elections. Sabi nga namin, when we scan the landscape, no one in the country was actually forming candidates at a national scale. Hindi siya ginagawa ng government natin, COMELEC, DILG, NYC. They do not have programs for candidate formation. CSO, schools, church, faith-based institutions, they have this stigma on politics, so they do not do this sort of training or formation of candidates. It's supposed to be on other jurisdictions all over the world. It's usually political parties, but as mentioned, we have very weak parties.
But of course, if you prohibit a certain number of individuals from running for office, you do have to have options and alternative candidates, but also how do you imagine that political party system to go? In the US, we do know may two major political parties, the Democrats, Republicans, pero dito sa Pilipinas, wala tayong ganun.
Exactly.
So papaano mabubuo? What ideologies could possibly shape these parties? Is it going to be sectoral groups? Baka maging katulad na lang din nung party list system nangyari doon. How do you imagine that to go?
I think that's why part of it is we have to look at it as everyone has to be involved in this process. Hindi nga lang kasama dito si government, but even non-government actors should also look into this aspect. Because even in the US, wala naman law actually saying na we only have two parties. It's just nagkataon through competition, through passage of time, two major parties came out of that process. But I think in the Philippines, because we have such weak laws and such a weak legal system when it comes to parties and such a strong stigma against politics, we have less and less people engaging into elections in the Philippines. So I think part of it is there has to be people to step up. And at least what I've seen across the country, we've seen more and more people stepping up, lalo ng mga kabataan. So you have more younger people stepping up to run for elections. And part of it is, maybe there's a conversation that can be said, if you come together, you can compete for elections. But ano yung problema? Bakit hindi tumatakbo yung tao? Bakit ayaw na bumuo ng party? The problem in all of these things is still dynasties. Because when you have a political dynasty, 20 years na nakaupo sa position nila, they control money, they have the name, they sometimes even use violence. That discourages more and more people to engage into politics. That's why for the past 30 years, pare-pareho lang talaga yung pangalan natin sa balota natin. So our thinking is if you take out dynasties out of the equation, we will have a new generation of public servants emerging. But it's part of the call for our greater society, kailangan pa rin natin mag-emerge, no? So I think that's also the next step out of ending political dynasties. He cannot stop with the law. The law is just the first part. The next part is getting more and more people to organize, to develop their own political parties. Lalo na yung mga kabataan nga natin, lalo na yung mga marginalized sectors
Same as
natin.
with your group.
Exactly.
Is it possible to become, under this setup, a political party? What's your group all about?
So yung three groups that we're part of, the Simbahan Likod ng Bahayan, Democratic Insights Group, and Hiraya, we're all NGOs. Our goal right now, we've come together to challenge political dynasties, but our role is really creating better political competition. So our role here is creating better spaces that allow alternatives to actually emerge.
And what have you seen in recent years? I have noticed na mas marami na ngayon ng mga nagsasalita ng mga technocrats.
Yes.
May emerging space for that. There's alternative media as well. What movements are you seeing here that could possibly lead to?
So I think one of the bigger ones, especially for young people, is when we look at the 2022 elections. Nakita natin may shift in terms of young people from just being voters. We saw a lot of them becoming campaigners. So whether that's campaigning in social media, or even doing door-to-door campaigning. And we've seen this shift through 2025. And the hope is mag-continue siya going into 2026. But the problem is this is just a small part of the population. I think part of it is there is promise here, but hindi pa natin na-fulfill yung promise. I think yun yung problema natin because the systems that we have are still directed towards harder political participation. I think that na-mentioned earlier was employment. I think one of the biggest problems that we have is employment in the country. It's harder for you to think about politics if wala kang pambayad wala kang basic, exactly. And I think part of the problem there, for a lot of young people, they're looking for a way for them to actually earn income. Paano sila makatulong sa pamilya nila? So I think we have to also look into that aspect to get more and more people to engage into politics. But I always go back to dynasties because even at the level of our localities, the reason why we have such poor economic situations is because dynasties are able to do predatory business activities. Because wala silang ibang kalaban. They're able to take control of a business. In some areas, sila lang yung only business owners in these areas. And whether they can give out, hindi sila magbibigay ng permit or kukuha rin sila ng
So it goes side by side, political, economic
Exactly.
influence, especially in the provinces and in towns. No?
Exactly.
But of course, ideally, maganda yung mga proposal ninyo.
Yes.
No? But pragmatically, if you were to have several things that would be non-negotiables,
Yes.
sana, na pwedeng mapasa realistically within this Congress, ano yung mga ibabargain mo doon?
I think the first is the fourth degree. I think napaka-importante yung fourth degree because that's the research that we have right now all points to fourth degree as well. I think too important yung bawal yung simultaneous and bawal rin yung consecutive. So that has to be a clear prohibition.
Bawal yung simultaneous saan? Within national
and local.
Oh,
Especially in the local setting because yun nakita na talaga natin na masama talaga yung situation if you have sabay-sabay at a provincial local setting. The third thing that's important is this should also apply moving forward. So the 2028 cannot be a pass. So I've heard certain scenarios where in 2028 hindi mo na mag-apply siya in 2031 elections. I think it has to apply
a sense
in
of
2028.
urgency
Yes.
while there is momentum.
Exactly. And I think yung important part for us is there has to be a mechanism that will allow it to happen. It will be difficult if mangyari yung pagbawal after elections, after voting. It will open a can of worms litigation-wise. So I think the way we're looking at it right now, there has to be a mechanism before
What
the
kind
election
of mechanism
period. I go
would
back
that be?
to we give COMELEC the power to potentially look at COCs and then dito papasok yung preference. So yung preference aspect we're in.
Yun nga, medyo kahit nga sa campaign contributions pa lang,
Yes.
may lusot na eh.
Yes.
Kung sabihin mo na it's of personal nature, yung pag-donate mo, ay kahit contractor ka pa, ay nakakalusot.
Yes.
And then we saw that with Senator Chis Escudero's situation, right?
Yes.
dito kaya, I could just imagine all the loopholes.
I mean, okay, if I'm gonna be very frank, no, I think the problem that we have ang ganda ng mga batas natin sa Philippines. We have some of the most beautiful laws across the world. I think the problem is the people implementing it. And time again, what we've seen, it's political dynasties implementing our laws. So the reason why we're here, the reason why there's still corruption, there's still so much poverty, it's because it's the same people implementing
And it's
these
COMELEC,
laws.
the credible body to implement that, to be that mechanism that you're talking about.
Unfortunately, they are the constitutional body
Okay.
to be able to
Good
do
point
this.
there. Good point there. Okay, maraming salamat sa iyo. We do hope na kahit yung fourth degree lang,
Yes.
mapakinggan o in the same constituency level. Because pwedeng sabihin fourth degree pero clusters.
Yes,
Ano,
yes.
maraming qualification yan. And this is a debate that will ensue for quite a while. I'm quite sure of that. We'll hear more from you guys. At maraming salamat for lending your voice to us this morning. We have Attorney Carlo Africa, Executive Director for Hiraya Initiatives for Change and Progress.